Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be welcoming Elena Maganto here tonight. She's going to be joining me all the way from across the world in Hawaii. And we're going to be talking about how gut and hormones are connected. And Elena has a PhD in molecular biology. And she is also a functional medicine practitioner like myself. So great. I'm so glad you joined me. And I've just done a little bit of an introduction. I said that you have a PhD in molecular biology, that you're also a functional medicine practitioner like myself. And I mentioned, well, like, I mean, what I always talk about with everyone is the connection between anxiety and the gut and the microbiome. So we're going to be kind of talking a little bit about that, aren't we? And moving that across into the estrobolome. So yeah, why don't you? Is there anything else you wanted to say about yourself as an introduction? I said you're in Hawaii. How's the weather there?
The weather is good. It's always good. Besides when it's pouring rain, but even when it's pouring rain, it's nice. Yeah, I'm
Oh
from
yeah.
Spain, as you can hear. So I'm
Yeah.
totally in the opposite side of the world right now. And yeah, kind of like my journey is what brought me here. Also part of my healing process. Like we all
Mm,
have a journey, a personal journey,
yeah.
and that what took me to go into the functional medicine side from my PhD. I was a scientist in the lab, like a typical scientist for many years, but
Mm-hmm.
more like my mother suffered from fibromyalgia. I suffered from a lot of gastrointestinal issues my entire life, not going to the bathroom, maybe going once every 5 days. I
Ooh.
was an estrogen dominance, weight loss resistance, Candida overgrowth, like I was a real mess, and stress was one of the main triggers in my case, always.
Mm,
And that is what took me to figure, to change when I started using myself food as medicine and functional medicine as a tool. And then I saw also how my mother healed from fibromyalgia and was out of all those meds that she was taking. Is like, this is it. This is what I want to do. You
yeah,
know,
it's amazing what your diet can do and what changes to your lifestyle can do. Yeah. So you had said that you struggled to lose weight and had all these gut issues going on. How did you go about discovering what to do? Was it during
yeah,
your studies?
a lot of people doesn't really connect weight loss. They go in like, the same diet doesn't fit everyone. We don't go follow the pineapple diet or just going gluten free. Like when I went to the dietitian to figure my constipation, she said you have to go gluten free, dairy free. Okay, so I went gluten free, dairy free, but still my constipation was there. It didn't really fix the problem, and my weight didn't move at all.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, when I entered into the functional medicine world, I learned about it. I started studying about it. So I got a deeper testing, and I was, I didn't understand why the functional medicine doctor wanted to do a stool test, for example, or breath test for microbes overgrowth because I would never relate my weight or like for having any gastrointestinal issue.
Mm.
So it was very interesting that the doctor found I had a small intestine bacteria overgrowth, which is very common in a large percentage of the
SIBO, is it
population,
called?
SIBO.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the methane SIBO, there are two different types of SIBOs, hydrogen and methane. So the methane SIBO usually tends to take people into constipation, and I had both. I had everything I could have.
Sorry,
So I
can you say
had
that again? Which one takes you into constipation?
methane SIBO. So the gut,
Yeah.
that this type of microbes that are overgrowth in our gut, they start fermenting and releasing gas. So there are
Yeah.
some microbes that produce hydrogen, there are some microbes that produce methane. So that's what the breath test is capturing. So
Yes.
the ones that produce methane are the ones that tend to take people more into constipation side. So
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the one that I had overgrowth. I had both, but the methane was all over the place. And
Yeah.
what I didn't really know at that point is that also the dysbiosis or the imbalance of the gut microbes can affect hormones. Like I will never think about it, that my gut was connected to hormones that I thought they were only produced in the reproductive organs and the adrenals. So that was
Yeah.
a really big discovery for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of connections there. But what is the one you want to go into? This is about the estrobolome. Estrobolome.
The estrobolome, which
Mm-hmm.
is a name that a lot of people didn't hear about, but there's a lot of research already about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the microbiome in our gut is like a complete, it's a huge ecosystem. We have good microbes, we have opportunistic microbes, we have the infections that we get from outside. So part of the microbes that live with us that are beneficial are the estrobolome. That's how they are called, that population of microbes.
Yeah.
And these microbes produce beta glucuronidase. And beta
Mm-hmm.
glucuronidase is an enzyme that is able to metabolize estrogen. So it is able to metabolize it to produce the active form of estrogen, which is one
Mm-hmm.
of the sex hormones, and then the estrogen will be able to bind the receptor. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's like there are so many bacteria in our gut and on our bodies, right, that actually outnumber our cells by quite a lot. And there's a portion of these that make up the estrobolome, and they produce an enzyme that then turns on estrogen or activates
exactly.
estrogen. Yeah.
Activate the active form, yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, because when we hear the word estrogen, it's like, oh wow, this is really bad. Estrogen is bad for me, but we need
Yeah.
estrogen. We
We
don't
do,
need it. That's what we make, women curvy and a lot
especially
of,
women. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of good things. When men are producing too much estrogen, that's not a good case, which actually there's a lot of cases now of even men breast cancer that is estrogen related. Or
Wow.
for
Yeah.
example, the type of abdomen that look like a pregnant woman, when you see a man with an abdomen like that, that fat tissue is inflamed and is producing a lot of estrogen.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. The
yeah,
beer belly we're talking
the
about.
beer belly, yeah.
Which is not a beer belly.
The alcohol actually increases the estrogen. So
It
yeah.
does. Yeah.
So yeah, when we produce exactly, when estrobolome is working well, is producing exactly the right amount of estrogen that we need, is fine. The problem comes when there are certain triggers that can cause an imbalance in those type of population of gut microbes, and then can cause more or less. So
Mm-hmm.
having more estrobolome or less estrobolome can still cause a lot of problems
And
either way.
what would be the difference between the two? Can you explain?
So when we end up with more estrobolone, then we're producing more of the enzyme. So that means we're going to produce more estrogen. So we can end
Mm-hmm.
up with high estrogen. One of the side effects is what we call estrogen dominance. And being high in estrogen can end up causing a lot of belly fat accumulation or overweight in general. But the type of woman that accumulates estrogen is usually located in the abdominal area. Also, fluid retention is a big one as well, and then symptoms
Mm-hmm.
like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome,
Yeah.
endometriosis, yeah, and all symptoms related to that, like for example,
So
anxiety and depression.
yeah, and so there can be some people who, when they have PMS, they retain a lot of fluid, and that could be an indication
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they're estrogen dominant, and that could relate back to their gut, right?
totally.
So we just label it PMS, but in reality, if you dig deeper, like we do as functional medicine practitioners, you look for the root cause of that. It's not just your hormones are imbalanced, but why are they imbalanced?
Yeah. Actually, what you said now, like a lot of people, they just think it's normal whenever they are gonna get their periods, they retain so much fluid, and that what happens to me years ago when I was on estrogen dominance. Like my mother used to tell me, Elena, you look like 5 months pregnant, because I used to get like a huge abdomen. It was very frustrating because every single month was the same thing.
Yeah.
So that was because, yeah, my gut was imbalanced, my microbes were imbalanced, I had a lot of inflammation in there, my estrogen was too high, so fluid retention. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Then when we end up with the opposite case, which is the low estrogen, that's usually what it's kind of like a similar what happens when we go into menopause and we end up with low estrogen. So low estrobolome, low estrogen, and we can end up with symptoms like high risk of cardiovascular diseases, osteoporosis. That's why a lot of women, when they go in menopause, if the estrogen is too low, they start having like joint pain and osteoporosis symptoms. And
Yeah.
again, also weight gain, belly fat. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if you have someone, like I have a lot of people that I work with that are in perimenopause or already in menopause, and they should be aware that their estrogen levels will drop, and that could maybe, these symptoms could also maybe have something to do with the beta glucuronidase and the and estrobolome. So they
Yeah.
could potentially try to boost this.
Yeah, and that's very important when women go in menopause, they think they have to forget about their hormones. And there's so many things that happen, after menopause. So definitely we have to keep thinking about it.
Yeah, because in our ovaries, we produce the majority of the estrogen, which stops at menopause. But where else are we producing hormones? It's in the
I mean, we have
adrenals.
our adrenal glands, yeah,
Yeah,
and we have our gut, which is a big
yeah,
one. One
yeah.
of the places where we metabolize estrogen is the liver as well. So always working with good liver detoxification and
Mm.
supporting the liver is extremely important.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I think, and liver detox, I've talked about this before. It's not like, there's a process to it, and you need to like follow along with a practitioner if you're going to be doing this and to do it really
Yeah.
safely. So,
Yeah, and when I talk about the word detox, it looks very scary for a lot of people, but detox is not just going into a 7, 14, or 21-day detox. It's about acquiring all those tools that help you have always a clean body to release
mhm.
toxins from your body. So that is the key of always having a clean liver, certain tools and habits to
Yeah.
incorporate in a day life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so what are the other symptoms that people should be looking out for that they,
So usually when the person end up with estrobolome imbalance, there is another type of imbalance. So we talked before about SIBO, small intestine bacteria overgrowth. There's
mhm,
research already connecting SIBO also with estrobolome imbalance. And
okay.
usually when SIBO is there, Candida overgrowth is there, which is a yeast that we also all have in the large intestine. Our
Yeah.
mother gave it to us, but don't blame your mom for that. We can try to give those opportunistic microbes in low numbers. So
Yeah.
typical symptoms when we have that type of overgrowth, as we said, is fluid retention, fat accumulation, but a really common one is bloating. Like
Mm,
there's people that don't understand. They have a very clean diet, what they think is a clean diet for somebody else, but maybe it's not for their body. But they have a clean diet. They wake up in the morning with a flat stomach, and as soon as they start eating, no matter what, they start
yeah.
just getting bloated and bloated. And at the end of the day, they feel like they are pregnant and they don't
Yeah.
understand why. So that's a really, really typical reaction that I see for people that have SIBO or IBS, like severe IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation or diarrhea, depending on the
Hmm.
type of SIBO. That is
Okay.
also a big one. But we definitely have to talk about brain related disorders here because there's a big connection brain gut. And when we end up with microbe dysbiosis, we can end up with deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies. We don't absorb well certain nutrients, and that can
Hmm.
end up causing also neurotransmitters imbalance and symptoms like brain fog,
Yeah.
anxiety, depression, not
Yeah.
being able to fight stress properly. So that's a
Yeah.
very important topic.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think if you have dysbiosis, this imbalance of bacteria, then it can also affect your immune system. You could start coming out with food intolerances, and then you start blaming the food.
Yeah.
But in reality, you still have to dig a lot deeper. you mentioned constipation and diarrhea. So someone might have an IBS diagnosis, which is not really a diagnosis,
Yeah.
as we all know. And it's a diagnosis
Yeah.
when it's nothing more serious, right?
Yeah.
But that could actually be related to the imbalance of bacteria
Yeah.
and issues with your estrobolome.
Yeah, the
But
IBS is just the box. The doctors put everybody as soon as they get any gastrointestinal symptom, it's like, okay, you
yeah,
have IBS. That's it. Take
yeah.
this laxative or this stomach protectant and go home.
So it doesn't help anything because
Yeah,
you don't touch the root of the
yeah.
issue.
And what you said is also very important. Like we can end up with food allergy symptoms, and actually having SIBO. Many people that have SIBO and overgrowth, they end up also with histamine intolerance. So it's not that we end up with a specific allergies; is that we start reacting to everything, and we don't even know what is the root cause anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And just to be clear that histamine is something that, like if you scratch your arm quite deeply, you'll see it instantly go red and swell up and it might sting a little bit. And that's histamine along with some other chemicals coming to that point
No.
to make sure you don't get infected, right? So it's a natural thing that's produced, but when there's too much, then yeah, you can get that issue. So yeah, excellent. So you actually have something that is like a bit of a giveaway for everyone, right?
Yeah. So some of the symptoms that we have been talking about correlating with hormone imbalance could be bloating, belly fat, constipation or diarrhea. There are many symptoms associated, but the ones that people complain the most is bloating and belly fat. That's why I have called the guide the ultimate guide to bloating and belly fat loss. But definitely in that guide, I talk about what are the main triggers. I talk about this, the hormones, leaky gut, microbes dysbiosis. And then I give a complete 14-day meal plan for vegan and non-vegan. That also has all the recipes in there so they can start resetting the gut,
Yes,
decreasing that
excellent.
inflammation and start resetting the gut microbes.
Yeah, excellent. That is really great. So I'm going to drop the link in when I publish the video. So everyone will be able to get their free copy. But Elena, I want to thank you so much because I've been following you for quite a while on your Instagram and I really love your videos. You know, you like talking about poop is really close to my heart. And I love the way you talk about poop and, and how to
I
improve
know
it.
it's something people don't really want to talk about it,
No,
but
I love it.
I felt it because I was like that years ago. I was going to the bathroom every 5 days, and that is
Yeah.
frustrating. And whenever you go to the bathroom, you just want to scream about it. I went to the bathroom, you know. It
Yeah.
feels so good. So it's very
Yeah.
important that people are aware that there are a lot of triggers that can be involved on constipation and maybe many of the gastrointestinal issues that they are having. And if
Yeah.
they are also having hormonal issues, they need to be aware it can be connected to their gut. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, people shouldn't be shy about talking about it. The
no,
last couple of days gearing up to this conversation, I've been talking about poop a little bit more. And I think people get way too complacent with their health and they're like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, you know, I poop every 3 days or something. And I'm like,
yeah.
how do you feel? Because I don't feel good if I don't go every day.
You don't
Like,
go, you just skip one day already. It's like,
yeah.
yeah,
Or not twice a day, you know? So,
yeah,
yeah, it's, I think when you're suffering with something, sometimes you get so used to it, you don't really realize. So just sit there and like examine how you're feeling and what's going on, because you should be going every day if you're not, or if you're suffering from some of the symptoms that you mentioned, Elena, then yeah,
yeah.
then you should get this copy to get rid of those symptoms.
Yeah, to start, you know, it's a kickstart to start resetting that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for joining me. And I know you get up early normally, but hats off to you for doing that. I'm so glad you came here.
Yes, thank you so much, Joyce, and thank
Okay.
you everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thank you
Have
very
a
much.
good day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.